Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 298 on my countdown to retirement. So, today we had to change, well, last night really, before we went to bed, we were supposed to change the clocks to, spring forward for daylight savings time. I didn't want to change them before I went to sleep, so once I got up this morning, I ran around the house and changed all the clocks, took care of that. Then I cooked up a package of bacon and some scrambled eggs for my wife and I. Then I ran out to Kroger and picked up some shrimp that I was going to need to make the shumai I've been trying to plan for several days. And then in the closet back here behind me, I have stored things that I don't use very often. And one of those things is a set of frames that contain my grandmother's wedding picture, a pastel sketch of my father when he was about 13, and a painting of my grandfather. And they've been sitting in that closet for a long, long time. And, this is a climate controlled office. And that has a vent in there, so there shouldn't be any problem. But for whatever reason, and I guess it's just age, over time they sit behind the door, slightly leaning against the wall. Well, the frames just disintegrated, and when they disintegrated, the glass that was inside the frames came crashing down and shattered across the floor in there. So I put on some cut resistant gloves, and I then got a small trash can and picked up all the shards of glass, the large pieces, and then I got a box that's approximately the same size as the glass pieces that were the bigger glass pieces, I should say. And then I put a garbage bag inside the box and then transferred all the glass shards into the box, sealed it up with packing tape, and then put caution stickers on it along with indications that, it contains shards of glass. And, then I sealed everything up and put that in our main trash bin, which gets picked up on Tuesdays, so that, nobody would get hurt either in my household or the garbage folks who are going to be, transferring it from my can into the truck, and then subsequently, wherever it ends up, based on where my garbage people take the trash. Anyway, took care of that. Then I brought my shop vac in, vacuumed up, the floor area to make sure I didn't miss anything, and that, vacuumed the bottom of my shoes, and just to make sure that I didn't drag shards of glass with me anywhere. Obviously, can't put the frames back together, so I right now just have the images stacked on top of each other on a flat surface. I have to decide what I'm going to do with them because I don't plan on hanging them up. I've already checked with my son. He doesn't care to have them. All the people that are in those pictures are dead. And, it's one of those things, I guess, that over time, even though, something that's important to me, I'm going to have to end up disposing of them at some point in time. I am going to ask my son's wife if she wants them. I'm sure she's going to say, no, just take a picture of them. So I have something digital that I, can have of them. But, I don't actually want the originals. So anyway, that's what I'm expecting. Then because of it's, coming up on spring and I want to do spring cleaning and get everything together and organized, I called up my brother-in-law. He had borrowed my trailer hitch last summer. He had a cottage up at Lake Michigan that they ended up selling in the fall. So he needed to borrow the trailer hitch and the ball and what have you that I usually keep on my truck for his vehicle to pull trailer home his belongings after he sold the property. and so he's had them stuck in the back of his vehicle, since the fall. So I figured I'd go over there today and get them, which is what I did. Then I used my low carb rib seasoning, and I made baby back ribs for a late lunch. So I seasoned them up, and then I cooked them in the oven for 50 minutes. Then I transferred them out to my grill to finish them for, I don't know, maybe 5 more minutes. I just like to burn off the extra grease that it pools in the oven in the way I'm cooking them. And so my wife likes them to be a little bit drier. So I just cook them on the grill for maybe, like I said, 5 minutes. Flip them over once or twice, and then transfer them to a serving container, and then put them on the table, and we're ready to go. And then after that, at long last, I finally started making the shumai. So last night before I went to sleep, I took 3 of the shiitake mushrooms that were dehydrated. I put those in hot water. I let them soak for probably 30-45 minutes in the hot water, and then as it cooled, I just set it in the fridge overnight. And then according to the recipe, I only needed to dice up the pork, and then the using a stand mixer on medium for like 5 minutes. It's supposed to take the pork, beat the living tar out of it, and turn it into a paste. Well, clearly the chunks were too big that I cut, because while it did turn it into a paste, it was way chunkier than I think it should have been. And so if I make this recipe again, I will use my grinder attachment on my stand mixer to grind the pork into a fine set of beads that I will then mix up in the stand mixer to turn into a paste, because I think texturally it will be much better in the shumai versus what the end result was today. I also added in the shrimp. Then I had drained the mushrooms, squeezed the extra liquid out of them. Then you julienne them in one direction, julienne them in another direction. So you're making fine mince out of the mushrooms. That ends up getting added in to the shrimp and pork mixture, along with a neutral oil, a thing of oyster sauce, so a tablespoon of oyster sauce, and I think it was a half a teaspoon of sesame oil. And then you blend it again, and then it's ready. The mixture's ready to put into the wrappers. And so then you just simply, take, call it a tablespoon or so, maybe a little more than that, put it into each of the wrappers, kind of create like a little flour thing in your hand, set them down. And then I don't have a bamboo steamer, so before I go invest in one, I wanted to make sure this was going to work. So I simply took unbleached parchment paper, cut it to the size of the inside of the steamer I do have, and then I cut like little diamonds in there so that the steam could come through, and that the wonton wrappers wouldn't stick to the steamer. Got the steamer going, and then put the each batch in there. I made like 4 batches, but each batch in there for 9 minutes, and then I used an instant read thermometer to make sure that before I pulled them at the 9-minute mark that they had all exceeded 165 degrees, which they all did. Then I set them aside, and while the next batch was cooking, I taste tested the first batch, and while the taste was correct, as I said, the texture was too chunky for my taste. So I would definitely do a finer grind before I mix the stuff up on another round. And the other thing that I need to do is figure out what dipping sauce I would want to go with it, because I tried it in a variety of sauces that I had, from soy sauce to duck sauce to none of them were comparable to what I would get at a dim sum restaurant. So I need to figure out what's the right sauce mixture, whether it's a pot sticker kind of sauce or it's a sweet or hot chili sauce. Like I'm not quite sure what the sauce is, but that's what I'm going to do the next time I go to make them. So anyway, my wife and I ate about a dozen of them. You know, like I said, the taste was okay. We were trying different sauces, just couldn't get the right flavor profile with the dipping sauce. Um, so I saved the remainder that I cooked, and I'm going to create a pseudo wonton soup uh, out of what's remaining. So I have some chicken broth left from my last roasted chicken. And so I'm going to basically drop the wontons in there. I might stir in an egg and make it like an egg drop soup, but I'm thinking I'm just going to make it like a chicken pseudo wonton soup to finish up the rest of the shumai. And then after that, I started binge watching, and I'll probably watch a couple more episodes tonight. But I started binge watching the season 3 of Reacher on Amazon Prime, and so far so good. Um, for those of you who have Amazon Prime, uh, I really like the first two seasons of Reacher. I really like the first season a lot. Second season was not as good. This season seems to be a little, more interesting. So we'll see what happens. But that's my plan for the rest of the evening. I got to do a little bit of work for tomorrow morning because I've got early morning meetings, so I need to do some prep work. But I plan to end my day doing some additional binge watching of the Reacher series. Anyway, that's my update for today. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comment section down below or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, have a great evening. Take care. Until tomorrow,